He wakes up to find himself in a luxurious bedroom with an old servant waking him up. He realizes that he has become Kale Henitus, a character from a novel he was reading before falling asleep. After confirming his appearance in the mirror, he decides to avoid any difficulties and live a peaceful life. The man realizes that there are many strong people around him and decides to gain strength to protect himself. As he gets dressed, he chooses to wear simple clothes, but even those are extravagant. He finds himself handsome in the mirror as he fixes his sleeves and is accompanied by his servant Ron. Kale is aware of his reputation as the trash of the family due to his unruly behavior but is content with being left alone. At the dining table, Kale's family members greet him, but their relationships are distant. Kale enjoys the luxurious breakfast so much that he is unaware of his younger brother Basin's shock, then asks his father for money, which he receives a large sum. However, he realizes that he needs to meet Choi Han, the main character of the novel, before he reaches Western City where Kale will inevitably be beaten up by him. Kale knows that he can't avoid meeting the main character and decides to find a way to run into him so that they can start their journey together along with some other members. Kale is aware that he needs to avoid getting on Choi Han's nerves while still achieving his goals. During the meal, he suddenly remembers the number of experts hiding in their land. He becomes afraid that anyone could be a skilled fighter or assassin and decides not to mess with anyone. Kale enjoys his meal, but when he finds out the second chef Beecrox is Ron's son and specializes in swordsmanship and torture, he loses his appetite. He decides to make a good impression on Beecrox to avoid any trouble. After finishing his meal, Kale heads to his study, where he burns a document he wrote in Korean and falls asleep thinking about his plans for raising his defenses. The next day, Kale has a hearty breakfast before leaving to do some business, shooing away Ron who usually follows him. Kale visits a tea shop owned by Billows, who is secretly the wealthy bastard son of a merchant guild's concubine. Despite Billows being wealthier than Kale, he is hiding his identity from the world. Kale orders tea and a novel from Billows, paying with a gold coin without expecting any change. He also offers to treat everyone in the shop to a cup of tea if Billows thinks the payment is too much. Kale's behavior shows that he has a lot of money and doesn't care about being respectful to others. After ordering, Kale heads to the third floor of the shop, where he plans to watch Choi Han from a window overlooking the northern gate of Western City. Choi Han, who had just buried his beloved villagers from Harris Village, heads towards Western City to report their deaths to Count Henitus. He plans to prepare a small funeral for them before seeking revenge against the assassins that killed them. On the other hand, Kale is looking for the indestructible shield and other ancient powers that are hidden in Western City. He enters the slums, where people recognize him as trouble due to his past behavior. Despite warnings of a man-eating tree, Kale approaches it anyway, knowing it holds the power he is seeking. Kale tries to feed the tree by putting bread into a hole in its trunk, but discovers that much more food is needed to make the darkness disappear and reveal the light holding the shield's power. The text also introduces two slum-dwelling siblings who warn Kale about the dangers of the tree, but ultimately accept his offer of bread for their silence. Kale eventually returns to a tea shop where he waits for Choi Han to arrive.